everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am back today, finally getting through my Ulta and Sephora haul, so you're going to start seeing more videos coming up here really soon. I was kind of on a break, an unexpected break, for a couple weeks, so it got kind of quiet, but I had subletted my place, and I was traveling the world a little bit, so that was kind of fun, and I was using some of the makeup there, and loving it. So you're going to start seeing some of these reviews coming up. Also, I do want to say, I do tend to favor natural lighting. It has been really rainy here lately and cloudy, so it may come in and out a little bit, so we're going to try to make this work, but I just prefer to use natural lighting to the, I don't like the fake lighting, I guess, but just the non-natural lighting, the artificial lighting, because it's just the way that I like to show products, because I feel that's how you're really going to see it in the real world, so that's why, but we'll see how it goes. Hopefully this isn't too harsh. It can be really scary right now. But anyway, that's not why you're here. You are here to see the new palette by Cargo. Yes. So this one is Havana Nights. And I have been using this one for about a week because, you know, it intrigued me. Cargo in general tends to intrigue me, and one of the reasons why is because I'm a world traveler. I love eating different food from different cultures. I'm learning several languages right now. I love to travel, so it's just kind of one of my little hobbies, and so I absolutely adore the aesthetics of Cargo because of that. What they do is usually maybe once or twice a year, I think twice a year, they'll put out a palette that represents like either somewhere in the US or somewhere worldwide, and then they put together the colors of that area into a palette basically. And this one is Havana, and that's in Cuba, and so it'll give you an idea of what the colors look like, and this is what the palette looks like, which I think is very fitting to Cuba actually, especially Havana. These buildings here you'll see in a lot of pictures when you look up Cuba, and so I think it's just perfect. Absolutely love the aesthetics. Now I kept the box because you can see there's some gold in there or some yellow, and what you do is you put the box back in and it changes, and I just absolutely love that, and so I kept the box for that reason. I tend to keep the boxes anyway in general. It's just kind of one of those things that I do. But so you do get a small mirror if you're into that, and you do get a brush. Again, I don't tend to use the brushes that are given. I'm sure it's fabulous, but I like to use my own, but it's there if you want it all in one place. As you can see, you know, there's a couple pops of color, but this is very much a neutral palette in a lot of ways, with a couple pops of color like the pink and teal, and then a lot of yellows, because you're seeing this season there are so many yellows. Yellows are just very popular this year, and so this was kind of a smart palette because it incorporated it in a way that's very usable and not intimidating like some of the bright yellows coming out, which are making some people go, ooh, can I pull that off? You can with this collection. So what I'm going to do, I'm doing something a little bit different today. As you can see, I'm not wearing any eye makeup right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a review on this while putting it on. It's going to be a very short thing, and then I'm going to go into a more in-depth review, but I just wanted to show what I'm talking about when I'm using it, so if that makes sense. So here we go. What I found with this palette when I was using it, that the pigmentation on it was not necessarily as extreme as I would have liked. So to show that, what I'm going to do is go in with, I think it's Tropicana. It's this pink, and I like to put a pink in the crease just to get it started, add a little bit of color. So you dip your brush in there, tap it off. It is powdery. What I've noticed with Cargo products is they do tend to be powdery. So let me show that again. There you go. That's pretty standard when it comes to Cargo's formulation for what I've seen. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into the crease. Now, as you can see, it's not really showing up that much, and this is a bright pink. So what I'm going to do, and this is the same thing that happened with this teal, is I'm going to swatch them for you. So here we go. So that's what they look like swatched. Now, it's nothing extraordinary, especially considering looking at these colors. they're pretty, you know, they're pretty bright in the palette, but they're a lot more muted when you actually start using them. So what I'm going to do this time is really go in there with the pink and put it in there. And as you can see, I'll barely tap. Just getting that in there. I know you're like, what is she doing? I'm going to try to get that into the crease. And you can see that there's not a lot of color coming up on this. And that was one of the problems that I had with this palette, was that it just, you really have to build it up. And even if you go in there a few times, that pink, you expect that bright pop pink to really intimidate people and get in there, but it's not really getting into the crease like you would expect. There's a light hint of color, so this time I'm not even going to tap it to try to get more in there, but it just isn't really showing up as strong as I would like. So your best bet, I found, is to not tap it and to go in there. But the problem with doing that is, if you can see here, is that you're going to deal with fallout, and that can be a little bit frustrating to some. So being powdery, the color is easy to clean up because it isn't overly pigmented, but if you were looking for a bright pink, you're not going to get that from this collection. Okay, so moving on to something a little bit more dark for the crease. So then what I would do is I would go in with something like this color, which is Vintage. And I just want to show again that even with the swatch, and I've really dug into this, you can see I've used it a lot. This is Vintage right here. It's a nice color that's perfect for a crease for somebody of my skin tone, even a little bit lighter medium. But you can see, because of the powdery consistency, I've really dug into that one. And part of it is it doesn't, again, have a lot of pigment to it. Here it is. So it does do a little bit better than the pink, which hopefully you can see. It does go a little bit better than in the pink, but these aren't necessarily, because you have to dig so much to get that pigment in there, these aren't shadows that are necessarily going to last you a really long time, because you're going to go through them pretty quickly, again, because there is a lot of fallout in it. Again, look at this. You can see I've been using it for a week, and that is kind of the color that I've been going into, and there's already a big chunk out of there. So, you know, these aren't necessarily going to be the longest lasting shadows. So I'm going to take a smaller brush and go in with this. And this is what I was doing to make it work a little bit better, is basically taking the Plaza del Este and with Ron, and then putting it, and I was like, where'd that come from? Latino flair, and then we have Ron. I mean, it really does say that. Ron. So what I was doing was mixing these together to create a look that I like to add a little bit more depth just to the crease. And it does work nicely. It's just this one right here, Playa del Este, is going to be your best friend in this palette. So what I'm going to use next is Miramar, and this is my absolute favorite color. I freaking love this color. I've been using it all the time. So here it is. It's like a sparkly, just white shade, but it's more of like a cream with a little flecks of kind of tan in there, but you can't really tell when you have it on the eye. It just goes on as this gorgeous, beautiful, shimmery shade that I just absolutely love. It's probably one of my favorites of the collection. It's more of like a shimmer. It's not a full-on like glitter, or, you know, it's nothing too crazy. It's just a nice hint of a shimmer. So what I like about it is you can wear it in so many different ways. Like, you could choose to wear it for work. It's very work friendly. You could wear it on a date. You could wear it on a weekend. You can wear it basically anywhere. It's a very friendly color, but it's just beautiful and adds a little hint of something without, you know, being boring. It's not just a boring shimmer. I really like it. I loved this color. I do feel like because these are so powdery, it is better to use your fingers, which you can see I am doing, and it just worked a lot better for me. So now what I'm going to do is go back in with Playa del Este, and I'm going to just put it here in the corner and back into the V. Like I said, I love this color. It's the darkest of the palette, and I think that, yes, even in comparison to, Here it is here. Can we see this? It doesn't go on the arm quite as dark as it looks in the palette. And that's what I'm finding is a common theme with this, is that everything looks darker in the palette than it does when it's actually swatched or being used. But even still, I think this is probably the strongest brown of the collection, and it's going to help the other ones if you mix them together. So you're going to have to play a little bit of the painter palette to make this work. So here you go, going into the crease and into the outer V to add a little bit of dimension. All right, so now I want to do a little pop of some of the yellow. I'm not going to go crazy with like this yellow here, but I'm going to go with the Café con Leche, and I'm going to go ahead and put this into the corner. And the reason why I'm going to go with the lighter, which is right here, is because I want it to be cohesive. And the other one, which is right here, is more of a light. It's just a standard matte, almost like cream color white. Even though it looks yellow, it doesn't come on quite like that. And then Casa is just a little bit too dark for what I want for this look, but I want to incorporate as many different items as I can. And this is powdery, and it's dropping a little bit lower than I wanted around my eye. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to do a cleanup with this anyway, because again, these are really powdery. These are so powdery, you can see it dropped down here, which is easy enough to fix. They wipe away really nicely, but in this case, not so much. So what I'm going to do is I am going to fix up this eye look, and then what I'm going to do is finish the rest of the review with this, because you can see here. All right, everyone, we have a look. Yes, so this is it. This is the look that I ended up pulling together with the Cargo Havana palette. You know, it's okay. It's okay, and that's what I'm saying with this palette. As you can see, it's not very pigmented. Even just wearing these, and this is just partial swatches here, and I'll be putting swatches to the side, of course, so that you can see them and see what they look like, all of them together. But these are partial swatches that I put onto my arm to show you what they look like. And as you can see, it's kind of a wash of color. It's not as pigmented as one would hope. So using this, especially the pink, I was just really surprised by that. It just really doesn't show up like you think it will. And because the formula of these shadows are so powdery, the more that you use them, the more that they wipe away when you put them into the crease. So I just found that I kept going back in, putting them on, you know. I don't know if I could show that here, but the more you work them, the more they tend to disappear. So taking this pink and putting it here, do you see how it's already disappearing? Now I'm going to really put it on there. It is really on there. Now watch. So it works, but because it's so powdery, the more you use it, the more it kind of wipes away. You can definitely see it and see how powdery it is. And then, you know, using even your fingers, it's already started to lose its vibrancy. And this is the bright pink right here. So it just is so powdery that it starts to just go away as soon as you start working it. So you're not going to get the vibrancy you want. Also, just in general, it's not as vibrant as you would expect looking at it. So that was a little frustrating because I feel like all these colors worked that way except for, well, all the mattes. All the mattes worked that way except for Playa del Este at the bottom. This one tended to be the winner a little bit more. And, sorry, I got an itch right here. Ooh, I know, kitty fur. And this one tended to be the saving grace of the mattes within this collection. Oh boy. As far as the shimmers, there aren't that many of them actually. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And they do better. I think they're a little bit easier to work with. Even for shimmers, they are very powdery, which I'm not really used to. I'm used to a creamier formula when it comes to shimmers. And these aren't. These are definitely more powdery. Because of that, the lasting power is not that great. They go on beautifully, but within, I would say, 4 to 5 hours, they started to lose the shimmer and they lost like 50% of their vibrancy. And I felt like the oils from my eye started coming through and changing the color a little bit, especially with my favorite here. I absolutely love this. Mirage is my absolute favorite color of this collection. Yeah, I know it's a little bit boring, I guess, for most people. It's the one right here. It's really hard to see, but it started fading away, and it was just frustrating because around, you know, the 4 or 5 hour mark, I looked in the mirror and it wasn't the pretty white that you see here, this opalescent kind of color. It wasn't like that. It was turned into like a creamy color, because I do have oily eyes, to be fair, but it just came through and changed the coloring, which was kind of disappointing. I will say that the mattes fared better. The mattes went on really nicely and they lasted a decent amount of time. The mattes lasted a good, I would say, 7 hours on me before they started getting really oily. Like, I would say a little bit of oil started breaking through around the 5 hour mark, but it wasn't like, ooh, you know, it didn't crease. It didn't wear away. It just changed a little bit where it's more of a glossy look, but that really, you would only notice it if you were looking for it, but you could definitely see a change around the 7 hour mark, which I'm happy with. That's almost a full day, and with somebody who has really oily eyes like me, I wasn't too shocked or upset by it. That's actually pretty good. So I wasn't disappointed with that. So who do I think that this would work really well for? I'm going to be honest with you. This is a very neutral palette. Yes, there's these two pops here and the yellows, but the yellows, when you actually put them on, as I said earlier, tended to look a little bit more cream color. So it wasn't like these really vibrant yellows that you may be expecting. This one's really pretty. I really like this one. I think this one's really unique. I think it's beautiful. I can't wait to use it more, especially in the summer. I think these two are kind of the winners. Well, these three, but again, the lasting power wasn't great. This one's really unique and beautiful. I absolutely love it. But as far as the other cream and, well, the yellow golds, I just think once they were on the eye, they turn into more of a cream color, which isn't too exciting. So I think looking across the board at this is a very neutral palette. And the pops of color didn't perform quite as well as I would have liked. And that's kind of what sold me on this palette, was it was on trend with the yellows and the golds, but also had a couple pops of color for those who are intimidated by color. But it just didn't deliver as well as I would like. And the thing is, I love Cargo. I so love Cargo, but this just wasn't my favorite palette. You know, there's just so many neutrals, and everybody has so many neutrals. But what I will say is that if you are a beginner and you're just starting your collection, or you're starting to head into using pops of color, this would be a great palette for you. It really would, because you can't mess up with it. Because there's not a lot of pigmentation, and because the formula is really easy to work with, this is going to work really well for a beginner or intermediate. I consider myself to be an intermediate person. Doing the eye look, I was doing it more so you could see how it performs. I am not a makeup artist, obviously, you know, and that's kind of how I look at my channel, is I'm somebody who's just an everyday Josephine, like most people, and I'm trying to make these products work. And I think that this would work really well for somebody who is just starting out, who's a teenager, who's, you know, or just any stage. If you're just starting out with makeup, I think this would be really great for you. If you want to venture into some fun colors, they're here, but don't expect too much payoff, because you're not going to get it. The more you work it, the more it disappears, and there may be some frustration. Also note, because it is such a powdery type of eyeshadow, it is going to leave cleanup. You're going to have to do cleanup. So either put a powder under your eye and then whisk it all away, which is always really smart. You can put a lot of powder on and whisk it away, or you can do your foundation afterwards and make your life easier that way. But you're going to have to do cleanup, and I did as well. So yeah, what do I think of this? Again, it's not my favorite Cargo palette. It's okay. I'm definitely going to keep it. I do like it. I do feel that there's a place for this palette, but I think for me, the way to make this work better is I'm going to use a lot of these as crease colors, and then bring in more exciting, like, individual pans to make a more exciting look that I want. But you're going to definitely want to bring in a different palette, but this is going to be great for me to get through, for just especially the browns, using just for neutral colors, to highlight other shadows. So yes, that is my review on the Cargo Havana palette. Let me know what you think. You know, I know Cargo doesn't necessarily get a lot of love, but I do really love this company, and so I will keep buying their products. And, you know, let me know what you think though. Does this interest you? Do you have any of their palettes? What do you think? Let me know. So until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye.